Perfect. All right. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Q&A. Anything happening lately? Tomorrow's April Fool's Day. I got to think of something good for my 4-year-old. All right, so we are expecting Ricky from Spectrum any minute now. And I think we've gathered that that's probably the majority of the questions you all have is Spectrum related. It's been a couple weeks now, really, right, Craig, since we've installed, and Spectrum has been gracious enough to be here all week and really have been adding to a list every day, and we've kind of been monitoring them, working through the list as things have popped up that are cable or internet related in your apartments. So I'm just going to start off with a couple things that were mentioned in our community update yesterday. So we know that some of you may have gotten a bill for installation, $49.99. We have been sending that information to Craig, who's coordinated with Spectrum, and they are going to do really a full FED bulk account review audit next week. So we have been saying, don't pay that, don't pay that, don't pay that, because we expect them to remove all those from your account by end of next week, correct? So if you have that, if you've gotten an email bill or a call for that amount, make sure you send it to your buddy, just so we can reconcile everything next week with Spectrum.
And we do know that some are only $19.99. Don't ask us why. So, the audit is to be completed by tomorrow, but they say it takes 3 to 5 business days. I also know in some of the bills I've seen, some of your bills are actually going to be due this weekend. Do not worry about that. Yes, they will be credited later. So if for some reason you end up with a bill a week from now, 10 days from now, that means they missed it and we'll have to circle back. But otherwise, hopefully by the end of next week, all those should be credited back to zero. I would also ask you to check your account. He's probably getting ready to mention this. We have seen a couple of those that have come to me. One lady has signed up for Acorn TV, doesn't even know what Acorn TV is. So somewhere in this installation process, she's got a $695 charge on her bill that's also not valid. So again, as you look at those bills, just make sure if you didn't sign up for HBO or Stars or anything extra, that it's just the installation we're taking care of, because you'll need to call back in, and you can either do that on your own or with your buddy to get any of those Acorns or HBOs or anything else that might be added to your list that shouldn't be on your bill.
Okay, another really common issue we've had the first couple weeks here is it seems during the activation part for some apartments, the incorrect package was set up. So I think Turner Movie Channel was a popular one, Channel 56. We've heard Channel 66, Ovation. That was supposed to be included, so you had it on your sheet, and when you go to look at it, it's got a little key and it's locked out. That's because they didn't set up the right package upon activation. So Spectrum, along with the installation fee, will also be auditing next week to make sure all of our resident accounts have the correct package. The select package, tier 1. I think I got that language down.
It's the tier 1 that's not been included.
Okay.
So you can wait for the audit to be completed, which again will be approximately the end of next week. We have actually been calling. You can call right this minute and they can activate it just like that. So if you don't want to wait a week, if that's a channel you want to watch in the meantime, either again call Spectrum and tell them, and make sure you tell them tier 1, or call your buddy that helped you activate, and between the two of us or your buddy and yourself, you can make that call. And again, it's just a signal they need to send to your receiver to activate those channels.
Yes, and if you have not received a channel guide, wait, there's more. So if you have not seen this channel guide, this printout, we have these available down front. make sure you stop by and grab one. But this will show you everything that should be included and available to you in your package. Yes. Michelle, Jean, down front in the front office here have these printouts available. Will they be laminated? I'm just in my mind thinking, are those lamination machines even wide enough for this? I don't know.
So I think the short answer, I'm not sure about the lamination, but we are going to print them on more cardstock type paper, so the thicker paper. We are waiting right now for the insertion of 1801 and 1802, which is the old channel 51. The channels are working, but they're not able to be inserted yet. So we're more concerned that 1801 and 1802 turn out to be different numbers, ultimately, maybe. We're not sure. We're hoping not, but until that determination is made, that's why we're not given a better copy or a more thicker version of that. That's not going to. That's correct, and we know that. As soon as those two channels come in, which is really the last thing we're waiting on, you'll get that.
Tier 1, that's Ricky, you want to pop on up here? Welcome, Ricky. It's mighty good to see you. So the question is, what is Tier 1? And that's spectrum lingo that I don't know, but maybe just a general education, because that is really our package, and we just went over to make sure all of our residents got the right package activated. But I don't know why you guys call it Tier 1.
Well, we have different. Oh, okay. We have different tiers of service. Tier 1 is what you guys would have subscribed to. Each tier has a different level of channels included in the package.
Yep. This is, when you get your channel list, you should have all these channels. And if you don't, let us know. Let your buddy know. But again, that's what Spectrum's going to be auditing at the end of next week to make sure we've got all of our FED resident accounts. You guys all have the same package that we signed up for, we contracted with for you guys with Spectrum. Yes?
Why are there duplicates? What are the duplicates?
What the question is, why are there duplicate channels?
In the past, Time Warner used to have, before we became Spectrum, Time Warner had the channels that were standard definition on one channel and high definition on the other. So channel 4, for example, used to be standard definition channel 4. If you wanted to get it in high definition, you would go to 1004 to get it. Now everything is high definition, so there's really no need in duplicate channels, but people are used to going to, say, 1004 to get channel 4, so they haven't removed the duplicates yet.
But they're the same channel.
They are the same channel, yes. Yep.
Is there plans to remove?
I honestly don't know.
Okay.
I'm sure that applies to HBO. 603, I think, is standard definition. 1603 is high def.
603 should also be high definition.
When we recorded it, it was a small screen and not terribly well defined.
Okay.
The same program on 1603, it was full screen and highly defined. So I don't know.
Okay. If 603 is in standard definition, it's something I'm not aware of. I thought all the channels had been moved to high definition.
Okay, so we've jumped right into questions here. Craig's going to help out with the microphone here.
We've added stars. Are we still Tier 1? Okay.
Yeah, so the question is, we've added an extra package, so you had the options to add sports, HBO, stars in this example. Are you still Tier 1? I think I can answer this, right? I think anything above and beyond the Tier 1 select package that we contracted with, you still have the same Tier 1 package. You're just those are additions. Did I say that?
The tier 1 package is just your base package that is on the box, and then anything you add on are just considered add-ons. Yes.
Yes. Yes, so the add-ons outside of the bulk package we have contracted with, you will get the monthly bill for those. So if it's, I think the sports package was $5 a month. I don't know what HBO runs these days, $15 or something a month. But those are outside of the scope of what we've contracted, outside of these few channels. Yes. Pat, yes.
Can you enlarge the print on the DVR?
The question is, can you enlarge the print on the DVR?
That is a good question. I don't know for 100% certainty. I think that there is an option to enlarge it. If you want it, I can get your unit number, and I can send a technician to check through the settings in the DVR and see if we can help with that at all.
Yeah, so part of our plan for you all, so now we didn't have Spectrum set up to do tutorials and trainings. We now will have that opportunity. So look out in our fun community life newsletters. You'll see we're going to add some sessions where you can come in and go through what the DVR functions are. Can you enlarge it? I don't know that, but that now that we actually have the product on our campus, we're going to make an effort to have those more intimate settings where you can ask and see a tutorial up close in person. Ann?
My question is, every morning when I turn my TV on, the first thing that comes up is Spectrum. And then it waits a bit, and then it says, press any key to start. And then it waits a little bit, and then it comes up and says, stick around, we're setting things up for you. Why does my TV do that?
I remember coming to your apartment last week and checking that out with you. We talked about it, could possibly be getting too hot in your cabinet. If that's still happening, we need to swap that box out. You've got a problem with that DVR. Okay.
Before we go to the next question, why don't you talk about, I think Spectrum techs are still here through today.
Tomorrow, I'll have
All
it
right,
here
why don't you give that lay of the land as to how we should, between you and Seth, if they're having these kind of problems, what do we need to do? What should they do in the next day or two while you guys are still here?
Yeah, if we can just get, I know that the front desk has been working on a list and then just giving the technicians a list in the morning who's having problems. So like your situation and your situation, we just need to get your guys' room numbers to the technicians, and I'll get work orders to have them swap your boxes.
Yeah, so front desk or your FVD buddy. Stop by, call them, send them an email, and we have an internal list where they have visibility on, and we'll get you added. And especially with those type of hardware issues, it'd be good to get them addressed before you guys leave us.
Right.
Not permanently, but for the week.
This is my other question. Is there any way that when we record on our first TV, it can also be maintained on the second TV? Because
No.
you have to go through the same process on both.
Unfortunately, there's not. The two DVRs don't interact with each other in any way. So if you have a show like that you could possibly want to watch in both locations, you'd want to record it in both locations. Our app, and I know this adds another layer of complexion, but in our app, if you have like an Apple TV or a Roku, you can do a cloud-based DVR like what you're talking about. So anything you record on the app can be viewed on any device, whether it be an iPad, phone, or any TV that has the app loaded. I know that's,
So
Does that mean I have to have Spectrum come in and help me do that, or what do I do?
Well, if the app is the route you'd want to go, so you can view recordings in multiple locations, yeah, we can either have your FVD buddy help you set it up, or we could have one of the technicians when they come to swap your box kind of
And
help
what
walk you through it.
vocabulary do I articulate so they understand what I want? What do I ask for?
You would just ask them to help you set up your Spectrum TV app.
Spectrum. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay.
I did not have a problem before. I have one now. I didn't have it immediately, but every night lately I've had a signal go out. I can reset it, thank goodness, but I don't particularly want to do that every night.
And what signal is going out? What are you losing?
Signal on the TV, it just says the signal's gone and
Could be. So we had a lot of technicians out here doing installs, and the majority of them check the settings to turn off. There's an auto power down setting on the boxes, and if it goes so long without any buttons being pushed or channels being changed, the box will turn itself off. That can be turned off, and we would just need to check your box out and see if that's the problem. If that's not turned on, then we would probably need to look at, potentially swapping your box. But I would need to send somebody out to take a look at that for you.
all right. So I'll just ask for that.
Yep. And we can start make sure we add them to the list.
Is there, do you know, is it like 4 hours that will go into sleep mode, or?
It's supposed to be 4 hours, yes.
And that's pretty common with most cable boxes in my experiences. If,
I want to handle that every night.
okay.
Yeah.
It's always the same time.
Let's go to Elwood. Elwood's got the mic, and then we'll come up here to you, Don.
We had an excellent installation with Jermil.
Jermil, yeah, I remember.
Did a hell of a job.
Yep.
And Brian came over and helped on synchronizing some audio and that. And then we got our bill from Spectrum, and lo and behold, aside from the fact we only had 4 days to pay it, which is irrelevant, we got a 10% increase. And that seemed like a bait and switch to me. And what I want to know is if Friendship Village had a multi-year contractual freeze on their pricing, why not the residents? Or were we left out?
Craig is probably best to
Are you talking
answer
about,
the financial question.
are you talking about like an add-on?
And the channel box, it's no big deal. A buck is not going to break us. But if everybody here got a price increase when they get their next bill, what's that all about? That shouldn't be fair.
So I'm really not well versed in the billing stuff. So you added on another box on top of what you have 3 boxes? Yeah. So if you only got one bill,
Buying another Stars or anything else. We got a bill and they increased the price for next time, for next month, 10%.
so what, it went from $9.99 to $10.99, I'm guessing? Something like that?
It's not going to make or break us, but
Yeah.
that smells.
I honestly don't know what the price of an extra box is per month. I don't know why it would have gone up unless because you were installed maybe in the middle of the month, the first bill was prorated. That's just a guess. That's a guess. I don't know.
We will ask our two.
If Friendship Village is getting a freeze on all of the equipment, which I really expect they are for a certain number of years, why did you not think the residents, why did you not include the residents for a freeze on our pricing?
Will
Same number of years.
we can ask? My understanding was everything went up in January, and we were beyond that. But I didn't specifically ask about any add-ons.
I don't know. I honestly don't know of any bill increases for boxes. Normally the boxes are a set rate. But I'm sorry, I just don't know a whole lot about the pricing. They keep the technicians and the billing completely separate.
So let us. My guess is if he got it, others have got it and just don't realize it yet. So let us make the ask there, and we'll circle back.
I have a hiccup in your Spectrum. Every once in a while it freezes, and if I turn it off and then turn it back on, it says punch any key, and then we are. Let's see. tell you exactly what it says, which I find interesting. Stick around, we're setting things up for you.
So that's like the same problem that they're having. Again, we'll have to come take a look and probably swap your box.
Because it freezes, and then every once in a while, it just comes up on a blank screen that says Spectrum, and then we go through the same situation.
Yep. Yeah, we'll need to come look at that and potentially swap your box
So
out.
I should tell them and downstairs?
Yep.
Okay.
Keep in mind, and we talked about this, I'm not sure if it was Brian or Ricky we had, but if you think about it, if each of you got 2 DVRs, which most of you did, and some got 3 or 4, we probably have pushing 1,000 devices here, and we know how things are made in today's world. If just a couple 3% of them are no good, we've got 30 or 40 boxes which have problems. So
Yeah.
this is not to be unexpected, I think, and it's no fault of anyone. It's just the way the devices, unfortunately, are made, that they're not always going to work. But we need to keep on everything to get them rectified, especially in the next couple of days before they leave, because I think, correct me if I'm wrong, after that, basically, you're going to try to round up the work orders, but essentially it's going to be maybe a couple days before someone comes out, more than likely, versus 20 minutes or 2 hours right now, because you're still all here.
Yeah, that's correct. I mean, after Friday, we'll have to have you call in and set up a work order with customer service. And depending on how far our calendars push out, it could be a day or so before we get out to you.
This is a similar question. Yesterday, I had download new firmware. We detected that your Spectrum receiver needs new firmware installed. Is that the same box problem, or is that something else?
So every so often, our boxes will do a firmware update. And normally they do those overnight, somewhere between like 3 and 5 a.m. If you saw it during the day, something could have happened overnight that your box didn't actually take the download. And so it tried connecting again. And did it go through? Were you able to?
It didn't record morning programs correctly, but then after I did twice do the OK thing,
Yep.
reinstalled, and it seems to be working today.
Yeah, so for whatever reason, that box just didn't take the firmware update overnight like it should have. And so it recognized in the morning that it still needed it, and it prompted you to take it through the firmware update.
So it doesn't need a new box.
I don't think that one would need swapped. That's not uncommon. For a certain percentage of the boxes to fall out during a firmware update.
So I will say, as we're installing people right now, they are taking the download as we're putting them in. So I was actually kind of surprised when I heard that this place wasn't taking the download in the first place, because when I'm going on installs at other residents, they're getting that first thing, and it's knocking it out of the way. So I wouldn't be surprised if you all get a download, but again, usually in the middle of the night, you won't even know what's happening.
Yes.
Good morning. When I want to turn my television on, I go to the remote, push the power button, and half the time I get a TV signal and a picture. The other half, it tells me I'm not getting a signal.
Yeah, so the question is when they're pressing the power button, half the time it's the TV saying it's not getting a signal.
Okay, so what that is you have TV power. You have TV power at the moment, but you do not have your cable box on. So, Ricky, what kind of remotes do we give them?
The majority of you guys have the Spectrum remote. Some have the big button remote, we call it. Depending on what button you're pushing to turn it on and off. The left one? Okay. So in some instances, like in her situation, when the box takes a firmware update overnight, the box resets. So it's going to need turned back on in the morning. When you're doing the left button, the TV button, that only turns the TV on and off. So the cable box should stay on all the time. If it does take a firmware update and it resets, then you would just need to turn that cable box on with the button at the top left corner of the box. And I did find these. I was able to dig these up. These are better instructions than anything we were able to provide you when we installed for the remote control. And I've got a whole box of them here, so we can pass them out and we can leave them. But it shows, you know, every button on the remote, kind of what it does. So I'm sorry we didn't have these on install, but I was able to get these this week to give out to you guys.
So something to add to that, just so you guys know, these boxes that we're putting in, they are RF, meaning radio frequency. So when you hit that all button, if that's how you're turning it on and off, are we not doing that?
Yeah, we are doing that because that's what we were told to do that. Some of us were told.
Yes.
Okay, so there is multiple ways to do the same
Yes.
thing. So the best way that I would recommend is just hit that TV button. If you come up and you have an all signal come up on your screen, that's where you go up and you hit the button on the cable box. It takes, seconds. And you'll know because the button will, I wish it was a better indicator on, but it gets slightly brighter when you hit it. I wish it turned blue or something to tell you, but it's slightly brighter.
The DVR box that I received got very, very hot on the right rear corner to the point where I couldn't hold my hand on it. I put some pads underneath it and the additional circulation cool it down, but is that normal for that box?
Yeah, those boxes do not have a built-in fan to cool the hard drive. So especially if they're being put inside a cabinet or if they have something sitting on top of them, they will get hot.
Space like that on top of it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes, don't put anything on top. It'll heat it up.
Okay, well, the pads seem to help. And more recently, the last 2 evenings, I've had a very weak signal on PBS.
Yeah, that PBS, I got some emails about PBS. PBS issue is a known issue. We have verified it is actually coming from PBS. So everybody who has our service right now is having that issue, not just here. We verified it at our office. And it's basically anybody who is receiving PBS, the problem is coming from the source, from PBS.
It's okay in the morning, but in
Yep.
the evening, it fades out.
Yeah. Yeah, our hub technicians have reported the problem to PBS. We don't have an estimated time to repair. If I get any updates on that, I'll make sure and get the information out to these guys so that they can get it out to you guys. But PBS is a known issue coming from them.
My installer instructed me to turn the TV on by pushing the right button. Is there something wrong with that?
Okay, so this was a mistake in the beginning that we made. Brian and I, not this Brian, the other Brian who was out here with me. We have 2 Brian supervisors. We did not get everybody on the same page in the beginning of doing installs with explaining how to turn the box and TV on and off. So what the button on the right does is it sends a signal to the TV, and then it sends a signal to the cable box to turn them both off, or if you're turning it on, it does the same thing, sends a signal to both to turn them on. What happens is sometimes you hit that button, and if you lay the remote down before it has a chance to send the signal to both devices, it won't send it to both devices. So in an instance where you're trying to turn your TV and cable box both off, and you push the all button, it might send the signal to the TV, but not to the cable box. So now what you have is your TV's off, but your cable box is on. So when you pick that remote up again and you push the all button, it flips it. Now the TV's on and the cable's off. And no matter how many times you push that all button, it's just going to continue flipping. So the easiest way is to leave the cable box on all the time and just turn the TV on and off with the left button. And I apologize. Like I said, Brian and I made the mistake of not getting all the technicians out here on the same page. with how to explain turning it on and off. When you get the box and the TV out of sync, the only real way to fix that is to get the TV on and then turn the cable box on the front of the box, which is the same way if you're just using the TV button to turn it on and off. If your box ends up going off after a firmware update, you have to go push that button on the front of the TV anyway. So, or on the front of the cable box anyway. So you're going to lessen the amount of times that you have to turn the cable box on and the frustration of having devices out of sync if you just use the left TV button.
I'd like to pursue this just a little bit. I was told I should not use just the TV button because if I left the recorder on all the time, it would overheat and destroy itself.
There's no extra energy being used whether the box is
Yeah.
on or off.
Yep.
It uses the same amount of
So I should
energy.
ignore that advice.
You should, because the box, if you turn the cable box off, it will still record programs. So the DVR is using the same amount of energy whether it's on or off, because even though you turn it off and turn the screen off, the internal parts of it are running to know that the guide is working, to kick the hard drive on, to record shows if the box is off. So I ignore that advice. Oh, the question was, he said his installer told him to turn the cable box off every time because he said if we left it on, the box would overheat. But what we're saying is the box doesn't use any additional energy being on or off because the internal components of the box run 24/7 anyway.
I was told to use the, if I use the left-hand button, the box would turn off automatically after about 4 hours.
And that's the setting we were talking about, the auto power down. So if your box is shutting off after 4 hours, then we need to come out and turn that setting off just to leave it on.
Okay.
So if that's happening to you, we'll get your house number on the list so that we can come turn that off.
I found with my limited experience so far with the boxes is that if you use the right on-off button that handles both the TV and the DVR, if you hold the button down for at least a second, it will eventually activate both the on-off for the TV and for the box.
Yeah, and that's what I was saying is if you use the all button, the one on the right, you don't really have to hold it down for a second. You can push it, but you have to leave it pointed at the devices so that it has a chance to send the signal to both devices.
Well, this is RF, is it not?
Well, it's RF to the box. It's not to the TV. It's still IR to the TV.
So the problem is people point it in not directly at the TV, and they'll turn on their cable box, not turn on the TV. Then you get that sync problem Ricky was talking about, where they're going back and forth.
Yeah.
So that's why we're recommending you turn the TV on, leave the cable box on.
Yep.
Do you have non-DVR boxes for TVs?
We do, yeah. The question was, do we have non-DVR boxes for TVs?
Yeah.
And we do have just high-definition boxes.
Okay.
I believe the contract with Friendship Village was for 2 DVRs. So, sorry, go ahead.
In my spare bedroom, I have a box. It's a DVR. The DVR will never be used because the TV there won't even be used very often. So I just got my bill, and besides the cost of the box, which is fine, that's what I agreed to, there's a charge of $12.95 for a DVR fee.
There is a DVR service fee. I don't know how the contract was built.
Yes, it's a third box. And
So-
I just want a plain box.
Yeah, that would be, we could swap that DVR for just an HD box. That would have to go through, probably say the FVD buddy, because that's going to have to go through billing, and just the technician won't be able to change that.
Yeah, your third, what our agreement was for 2 DVRs, so we kind of directed people, even if you never probably are going to use a DVR, go ahead and take it anyway, and you just don't have to use the DVR features. But for a third receiver, for sure, it is going to be cheaper to have a non-DVR. So we just need to call back into Spectrum and get you a swap out, and anybody else that has that.
Honestly, in her situation, they could probably just turn off the DVR and use the box that you currently have.
But she would still need to call in, correct?
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. Raise your hand if you have a question. Oh, here we go.
How much is all of this going to cost Friendship Village?
Okay. The question is, how much is all this going to cost Friendship Village? And I'm going to defer that one to Craig.
Yeah, so actually we've got a bundled deal because of the internet, and I don't know what the actual, it will be ultimately be a little bit less than what we're paying today once the Viacom contract runs out, which is not up until the end of the year. So from the first few months here through this calendar year, because the Viacom contract on the Wi-Fi was not up until the end of the year, it will be a little bit more, but it will turn out to be a little bit less once we can get out of that contract. And this is not a Spectrum question, but I know Tom and Eric are in the back, and there is some concern for those of you that have Alexas for sure, or any other of those special devices, that because we still have in Viacom and because the resident Wi-Fi is still up and running, your Alexas or other Google-type devices are still working, but they're not working on the Spectrum network. So you might just check that, or in some cases, if your children or grandchildren set those up and the app is on their phone, you have to go into the app, if I'm not mistaken, and make sure you're on the Spectrum network. I know there's some concern from the 2 guys in the back of the room. And again, that won't happen until next January when we shut that network off and you ask Alexa, what time Ohio State's playing tonight, and Alexa's not going to answer. So, Eric, you want to add anything to that? Okay, it might be sooner than the end of the year. Regardless, check it at your earliest convenience, because we're concerned some of your devices may or may not be on the Spectrum router and modem that are in your apartment and are still showing on the resident Wi-Fi. And of course, that's the one they would have had the check mark to prior to installation here. So just keep in mind, because nothing has really been shut down yet on the Wi-Fi side, you might still be on the old network. And we just want to make sure that doesn't cause us problems down the road.
So all of those extra things like Alexa and smart switches and stuff have to be added to the network manually.
That is correct.
Yeah.
Yes, they all have to be added.
The question is so Alexas and all the smart devices have to be manually added to your new Wi-Fi network, and the answer is yes.
I know that a lot of the Alexas and laptops and phones and things were connected to our Wi-Fi on install.
So when they installed my TVs, I told them I had the Alexa and anything else I had. And so do I assume that they have put them on Spectrum, or do I have to have someone check that out?
Well, we're coming to your house anyway, so we'll add that to the list to make sure it gets checked.
What I found was on my tablet and so forth, if I didn't intentionally tell it to forget resident or unset the automatic reconnect, I had a problem. But as soon as I set the Spectrum as the automatic reconnect and forgot the resident, then I don't really have any problems with it.
Yep.
Yeah, that's correct. So if you don't forget the network, it's going to constantly try and get on the primary network, which was whatever you guys currently or previously had.
Yeah, I just would like to switch gears just a moment and just talk about Windows. One of the issues that I experienced with the Windows was that the one that was installed was damaged, and I've been told now it's going to take 2 to 3 weeks to even get me a new window. And I'm really kind of confused about the process as to why the problem wouldn't have been addressed on the front end versus, they all have the same kind of like small windows. Now they're doing the south side, so what's going to happen to those issues that have not been addressed yet?
All right, we have a window question, so we'll take a timeout from Spectrum. Angie, you want to pop up here and answer that question?
There were some damaged windows in shipment, in the shipping process. So they have taken windows from other apartments that were in the line and put in the windows to get the apartments complete. They have been ordered. Unfortunately, it's just the way it goes sometimes, and it's going to take us a little, few weeks to get in. But if they have them, they will replace them with your unit, and then the apartments on the latter end will be the ones who may have to wait.
Other questions I can bring? Okay, let me get over there, Pat.
We'll get Pat here and then back to you here, Larry.
I'm back to Spectrum.
Back to Spectrum.
Wi-Fi. Everything's fine in the apartment. I walk out the door and I get LTE, which my son tells me is data. I can't get on there's no network here in the dining room or the hall.
Okay, so the question is about the Wi-Fi. So the Wi-Fi is, it's got its limits as far as how far it goes. So it does pretty much cover your room. It might get a little bit in the hallway. But that LTE is actually your mobile data taking over after you get out of range of ours.
Well, there's supposed to be, is that Friendship that's supposed to have the Wi-Fi in the hall?
Yes, and we are making some decisions about how we want that set up tomorrow. So we'll have more information to come. But you're speaking of, so you're dropping off your individual Wi-Fi network. Where do you go from there if you're out in a common area?
Yeah.
Eric, I don't know if you have anything you want to add to that, but I know we're huddling on that tomorrow. So stay tuned for how that'll be coordinated. We know that's on our radar, a high radar, so.
No, I just have a curious question. I got a number of computers, and on the main one I use, I get over 400 megabytes per second, which is phenomenal compared to what it used to be. On another computer in the next room, it's down half that rate. Why is that? I mean, it's only 12 feet apart.
Yeah. So let me phrase the question here. So the question is, maybe in my living room, I'm getting the 400 megabits per second as advertised, and then the room right next to it, I'm on my other laptop and I'm getting half that speed.
Okay, so there's many factors that can play into that. Obviously distance, but you're saying it's pretty close. There are environmental things that can go into that. Wi-Fi hates metal, water, different things, but also a lot of computers have different speed cards in them. Okay, so the network card that's picking up the Wi-Fi, there are different ones that are more capable of higher speeds. So it is very possible that you have a network card that only goes up to 200.
Could be it's an older machine, my wife says.
Yeah.
Richard?
I found that it appears to be related to the age of the computer. And so one of my had would only get 300, but if I went out of the router directly to the computer, I got the 400, right?
So yeah, the speed of your internet could vary based on the age of the machine you're using. So that certainly plays a factor. All right, I'm gonna switch your mics here, Brian, if I can. I feel much better with this mic in my hand. Is Tom around? Where did Tom go?
Well, you might ask if we have any other Spectrum questions, because we might let these two gentlemen.
Yes. Joe. Who do you contact if you have a problem? So the Spectrum, we have that number. So you'll have the spectrum to contact, but I think we will continue to be, you'll have a buddy, because we understand, even though Spectrum's last day on campus is tomorrow, it's still going to be a lot, and we're here to support you. So you have your FED buddy, but also Spectrum's number if you need to have an issue with your Wi-Fi or whatever. They're going to be the ones that are going to be able to remotely troubleshoot it, at least in my instances with my Wi-Fi, say at home. You guys do your magic behind the scenes and can help troubleshoot from afar. Gene.
When you republish the channel list, please put the spectrum number right on it.
Good point. So Craig mentioned when we've nailed down exactly what our in-house channel numbers will be, right now it's 1801, 1802. We'll make more of a final copy on a card stock, something that'll hold up over time, and we will put that main spectrum number that you can call if you have issues.
Just to add to the in-house channels, the 1801, 1802, we are going to have a technician, someone from construction, and someone from our maintenance department out here today, this afternoon. Our goal is to get that channel up and working today. So hopefully we'll have that up and working for you by the end of the day today. It's been a little difficult.
Given the variables involved with multiple TVs, et cetera, I think the installation crew needs a round of applause for a great job.
Absolutely. I think they have been great partners and have gone above and beyond. Certainly, you guys didn't have to be here this week, and they've stayed here and stayed on top of the issues as they popped up. So I think it's been a good start to our partnership. So, Joe.
I was under the impression that we would go through the Friendship Village IT department with problems, not calling Spectrum directly.
So the question is the impression was that you would call IT if you had issues with your cable or internet, and that is not the setup. The setup is Spectrum manages those for us.
So what's the telephone number? I don't have a telephone number.
Yeah, we'll make sure we publish that number that you can contact Spectrum.
I believe if you all received emails, which you all should have because it was the email you gave them when we called to sign up, that number is on that email, I believe. But regardless, here in the next week or 10 days, we will be republishing the channel guide, and the suggestion here to put the number on is a good one. We'll put the number on that guide.
You guys have magnets?
I don't.
I always remember getting the magnet.
So I don't
Help us
have
out here.
a
Come on.
magnet, but I'll try to see if we can get one.
Who would like a magnet? See, we got. All right. Rahini.
I switched out my remote. When we were shown boxes, there was a cable box A and there was a remote that went with it. And that's the remote I was familiar with when I lived in Worthington.
Okay.
And so when they brought in box C and they brought in the remote that went with it, I asked them to switch it out. So they gave me the other remote. And what I have on that remote is a little triangle with guide options.
Yes.
And using that, I was able to program my guide to only show my favorite channels. So instead of 1,300 some channels and whatever, I went through and I scrolled through and I selected the ones that I would be interested in watching. And I think that makes it simpler.
Yeah.
Going through the guide. And some of your channels are repeated not just twice, but 3 and 4 times.
Yes.
And I don't know if that was on the other remote, that option to whittle down the guide to just the channels that you're interested in. But I find that to be a very convenient option.
It is. You're right. It's very helpful. It can be kind of confusing how to get into the settings of the guide to set that up. I know that when we were doing the installs, a lot of the installers were setting it to subscribe channels only. That way it got rid of any channels that weren't included in your package, and you didn't have to look at 1,300 channels. You only had to see the ones that were on the list, but that didn't remove any of the duplicates.
No, the other Brian helped me program because I couldn't remember how I had done it in Worthington when he came in and he showed me where that little triangle is on the upper right side.
Yep.
And I don't know if that's included in the box C remote or not.
Yeah, all the remotes have access to that.
To that, okay, because that's a feature that is worth talking about. So you're not scrolling through zillions of channels. None of us are going to watch each and every one of them.
Yes.
Maybe a nice way to program.
Yes, I think that's something we can add to like our demonstrations when we get those set up with our IT department, that how you can make your favorites list, and 200 some channels, you probably watch a handful. So that does make it simplified.
The only downfall to it is if you do have a channel that somebody tells you about a show, you might have a little harder time getting to it.
No, but then you still have access. You could switch back.
Yeah, switch back and forth.
If you're familiar with how to do it, yes.
You got to know that.
Richard.
When you republish the list, since they've said the duplicates, we only have to have one, what if we just selected one of them instead of publishing the alternate ones? And it would shorten the list and make it much easier to use.
Do it alphabetical.
Well, sure.
Do it alphabetical and then have all the numbers together.
Okay.
We have seen an internal list, and I don't know if, I think Danielle may have put it together, but it may have come from one of you, that kind of combined what he was talking about earlier, where it would put 4 and 1,004, or whatever your numbers are, and call both of those NBC. It does pare down the list. So the other thing I would offer for those of you that are really literate in Excel and have time on your hands, so to speak, we would be glad to email this list out to you, and you can sort it any way you want to sort it. We would certainly give you that opportunity because it's in an Excel file. That's how we're printing it. So I don't want to confuse anybody, but if there's 20 or 30 of you out there that want to have at it, just, maybe we'll just send it out in an email, and then you'll have it the next time we communicate.
Yeah,
Other Spectrum. You have a Spectrum, Pat?
A suggestion for your publications everywhere is to please date things because we get multiple printouts.
Noted. Thank you, Pat. I do want to add a couple other things. We've put together a DVR guide and remote guides, little handouts. So these are available down front with Gene and Michelle. We're just laying eyes on what Ricky brought here, but that looks like it'll be a nice, useful tool for us as well. So we'll make sure if you want to grab one on your way out, and we'll have those available as well downstairs going forward. But that's all great feedback as we continue to communicate these changes.
I'm
Yes.
assuming that's just for the regular remote?
I have one for the regular remote and the Clicker 5.
Which is the big button
is
one?
not the big button one. The
The
other
one
one.
Rohini was talking about, probably.
Yeah, that one I don't have one of these for. I looked and I couldn't find one. I'm sorry.
I will tell you though, if you look at the Clicker 5 one, most of the buttons relate. So.
Okay, I just want to make sure that someone doesn't grab that and they've got a different remote.
Yeah, it's you'll see the difference. It's got the picture of the remote on it, so you'll be able to see match it to hopefully the one that you have. Unless you have that one, I'm sorry, I don't have one for that one.
Larry.
One sort of question on the side. Spectrum has developed a cell phone service, to replace AT&T and so on. How do you get access to it and find out information about it?
So the question is, Spectrum has their own cell service now, which
Yeah.
I think is a fairly new service line for you. How do you learn more about it?
Yeah, it's actually really good. We partner with Verizon. We supply the data to all the Verizon towers through our fiber network. So we partnered with Verizon. So we use Verizon cell towers. So basically, you're getting the same network as if you have Verizon's phone. You have to have home internet in order to use or get the Spectrum Mobile, which all of you do. SpectrumMobile.com is the website. You can go there and get more information about it. Also, if you're interested and able to, there's a store not far from here at Sawmill and Bethel, and they have the cell phones in the store, and they can sign you up for the cell phone service. I've had the cell phone service for about 4 years now. I was a tester before Spectrum actually launched it to the public. I've never once had an issue. It's fantastic cell phone service, and if you have 2 lines, it's $30 a line with unlimited data, no hidden fees or anything like that. I just pay $30 a line. What was it? It should be spectrummobile.com.
I'm sure you can call the number too, right? Your Spectrum main number and.
Well, I'm not sure if you can. I think it's a separate number for Spectrum Mobile, but if you just search Spectrum Mobile, you'll be able to find a number for it.
All right. I want to thank Brian. I want to thank Ricky. And I want to thank all the Spectrum technicians. They've been excellent to work with. I think we can all agree with that. And I don't know where Tom snuck off to, but I'd be remiss in not saying just thank you to him. Tomorrow's his last day, and we will miss him. He's done a lot of great work here, and he's a great guy, and that is no joke, unfortunately. His last day is on April 1st, but his replacement, which I will formally introduce at Town Hall, but that's his name's Eric Dean, and he's in the back there. But yeah, I'll be introducing him here in a couple weeks formally. But definitely want to give Tom a huge thank you, and we will miss him. So, all right, thank you guys.
Thank you. Sure.